Welcome to the New School of Marketing podcast, the place for smart, simple strategies that will amplify your business results. Sharing practical tips, insider knowledge, and actionable advice because marketing is something that every business owner can do. Now, let's get started. Introducing your host, Bianca McKenzie, mum, lover of snow sports, camping, horse riding, and in-demand launch strategist and Facebook advertising knowledge bank.
Welcome to the New School of Marketing podcast. I'm Bianca McKenzie, and today I'm talking about ethics and etiquette for social media with Deborah Wallace. Deborah is Online PR, the public relations agency specializing in digital online space PR. PR for the digital space includes image capturing, content creation, ethics, and more. She has tertiary qualifications in photography, public relations, business, and physical sciences, and she's a local. Deb is passionate about businesses supporting businesses. The success of your business community really reflects on others' support for one another, which is really good. I love that, Deb. Welcome to the podcast.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you, Bianca. Thank you for having me. How exciting.
You're most welcome. And I love that you're local.
Yeah.
And I love that you're taking social media not in a different direction, but you're highlighting one of the important things about social media that I know a lot of us forget about. So let's dive in. And I know that, PR is like another thing. So to a lot of people, PR, public relations, it's a mouthful, PR, can be a little bit confusing to people, especially when you mention marketing in the same sentence. And you know what? As a marketer, I used to get quite confused about marketing PR, especially at the start. I'm like, aren't they like the same? They're not. But what exactly is PR and how is it different or, in a way, the same from marketing?
Yes. So a few questions in there. So you're right. So when I say I'm in PR, I do get a lot of blank looks. So that's my cue. It's like that's my little flag to explain what it is. And I think there's a lot of people out there that don't know what PR is or what the difference is between the two. So firstly, PR is short for, as you mentioned, for public relations. So it's the basic form, in its basic form, I should say, it's the relationship with your public. Get it? Public relations.
Yeah.
It's about the practice of managing the spread of information between a business or an individual and the public. So it involves building and maintaining positive relationships with various stakeholders, let's say your customers, investors, employees, the media, and that kind of thing. The primary goal of PR is to create a favourable image of your business in the eyes of the public. So this can be achieved through various activities, let's say media relations, event planning, community outreach, and drumroll, wait for it, social media and more. So when marketing is mainly focused on selling a product, for example, PR is more focused on the overall brand and reputation management. So marketing and PR are like the yin and the yang, if you've heard of that. They work beautifully together. One focuses on a product and the other focuses on the overall brand, if that all makes sense.
It totally does, and I really love it. And I have to admit that when I was in the early stages of going into marketing, I was always a little bit confused about what PR was and what the role was. And I love that you just said that social media is PR. And when I got out of uni, there was no social media. So I didn't think about it that way. It was more the media relations. And I always thought it was for bigger organizations with bigger budgets that spoke, to the media and online, or not online, on TV and things like that. So, but it's changed a little bit.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that because when I did uni, the first time, I actually, as an elective, picked up PR for social media. And that was a while ago. And that was very different too. That was mainly focusing on government entities and also non-for-profits. So it's the bigger scale of things, like teaching your volunteers for the not-for-profits how to act and behave online, and give them, a toolkit, and give them the resources to get out there on social media. So, yeah, it has. It's interesting you say that about the university.
It has changed a lot. So you mentioned a little bit already. So in the marketing and the PR space, we talk a lot about branding and how important it is. Yeah, as a marketer, we would talk with branding, we would be more concerned about sales and conversions. But from a PR perspective, why is it so important?
Yes. So from my perspective, PR perspective, when I think of branding as being the number one asset, like your primary asset, which means in reality that managing that should be your number one priority, like your biggest priority. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally.
Yeah. So because your brand management, your branding is easier to keep up and favourable in the eyes of your customers or your stakeholders than what it would be if you were to gain it back if you lost it, for example, or if it was tarnished somehow. So what we want to do is, if it's up and when it's up, to monitor that and maintain that like the best way we can, but the most simplest and authentic way we can, because it's just so hard to get that trust back.
I 100% agree. And I do want to throw in here, branding is not a logo.
That's right. Exactly right.
Isn't it? Isn't there a saying like your brand is what others say about you when you're not in the room?
Yeah. And to me, it's reputation management.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, how does your I can't even say that word now. How do you look? How does that look? Again, it's public relations. How do you look to your public?
Yeah.
As your public, I should say.
Yeah, totally. Really, and like you said, if you get that tarnished, it is so much harder to rebuild. You see it with businesses that are then sold, and if the brand reputation, the business hasn't had a good reputation, and with online, especially in the social media space, it can go so much further. It's not just like your local fish and chip shop. Well, they would. No, actually, it would go further. I was going to say they wouldn't need to worry about it too much, but they would, because TripAdvisor and things go a long way too.
Well, and it's all online. That's right, all online digital space, and that's it. Public relations covers that whole lot.
It does. So crazy.
So it's actually quite scary.
It is very small. Yeah. It
can be
one exciting and but it's like. It's kind of like high school politics, isn't it? Like you just have to be the nice person and not be branded as the bully.
And that's what it's all about. Yeah.
I love it.
If you stop the podcast now, if you got out of that, that's all you need.
Don't be the high school bully.
Exactly right.
So in terms of social media, what is something that you often see people doing wrong? And I have it in, quotation marks, or because, or like maybe they're not taking full advantage of it, especially from a PR perspective.
Yes. Now, this is an interesting one. So what I see and I feel, and I need to remind people that that social media, it is social. It's social, get it? It's social media. Yes. So it's two-way communication. So what I mean by that, for example, is let's have a look at television or radio. So you're sending out a message, you're broadcasting a message, but you're only broadcasting that one way. Whereas social media, you're still broadcasting that message or sending out that message, but in real time, you can get a response or a reaction or feedback. So we need to be mindful of that. So it's social. So we need to socialise in our community and not put up that brick wall and ignore our audience, if that makes sense, because, again, that all comes down to public relations and having that favourable image, that it's not all all about you. It's not always all about you, and it's about communicating with your audience and your followers or whatever that may be to you, your stakeholders.
I love that. That is definitely a bit of a, I guess not necessarily wrong, because yes, marketing is taught that way. Like it is, the old school marketing is very much one-way broadcasting. But yeah, not taking full advantage of having it as a two-way communication. I'm literally sitting here going, oh yeah, I'm learning something.
Yeah.
Having that two-way communication is super important. And I do, in a way, talk about that and teach that a little bit, but we still throw in the broadcast. Like I kind of say 80% sort of conversational and 20% promotional. Like you still have to ask for the sale every so often. In my opinion. So let's look at Instagram, for example. Let's say that I follow you on Instagram and 2 days later I unfollow you. Talk me through what that means for a brand, if it means anything.
Yes. Did you just hear or did you just feel my brick wall just come up then? So some time ago, Bianca, I'm not even sure how long ago it was, and even if it's still running, there is agencies or people out there, organisations out there, and it's a trend that in order to gain more followers, you just follow anyone, you wait for them to follow you back, and then in a few days time, you unfollow them. So what that looks like is to me, from a public relations perspective, is, they may not be the best ambassadors for your business.
Yeah.
In fact, what it does look like, it has a real negative tone to it. It suggests that their business or their business is more important than your business, or they're more important than you. I think there's a lot more psychology behind it, but that's the core of it. And people go, oh, what do you mean by that? And how do I check that? The easiest way that I check is I'll go onto their Instagram profile. If they have heaps of followers, but only a few following, and even 0 following or even 1 following, that's a huge red flag to me. So I won't even follow them, just in principle.
Yeah.
Because I'm, as you know, I'm an advocate for businesses supporting each other and for many other reasons. And I think what they're doing is just not good PR. So I get they probably do have their reasons for that. But it was a trend, and I think some people were still using that trend or teaching that trend or whatever it is, but it just doesn't look good.
Yeah, because they think that the more followers we have, the better we look. But yeah, if it's only a one-way street, then I don't know, unless they post really cool things that I just want to look at and I don't really want to engage with.
Yeah. And again, it looks like it's a one-form communication then, doesn't it? Like at, television or radio. But again, it's not. It's social. It's on social media. But I'd like to think that they have their reasons, but they're taught that, like it was a trend. So I don't think it just, to me, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. I don't let it mean anything to me personally if someone unfollows me. Like it's like, okay, well, you might not be in the right space, or you might not be the right person. I don't like saying that, but I might not be for you right now. So that doesn't mean anything to me. But I do think that brands, especially when I don't know, when you're the face of the brand, for starters, it needs to be more personal. But when it's a bigger brand, I don't care as much.
Yeah, and I get that. I do. And, we see that. We see some, influencers or some businesses out there that do change directions, and that it doesn't fit with us anymore. We're not comfortable, getting their, posts or looking at their content anymore, and that's okay to unfollow them. But to do it deliberately,
to gain
to only get those followers up, and then a few days later unfollow you is just You might want to think that, people, if anyone's doing that,
yes.
about how that looks.
Not a good look. So sometimes businesses and brands outsource the posting on social medias to like an agency or a staff member. So how, and I'm always curious about this, how do you make sure that they follow good PR protocol?
That's an interesting question. So I could answer that coming from a few different ways, but it comes down to your social media policy. So have or develop, for an example, an etiquette toolkit for your staff. And if you have outsourced to an agency, check their policy, because that agency may not actually be a great fit for you and your ethics or overall brand. And I know that it may be hard to find social media agencies, but they are a lot more, coming through. And you don't know what their credentials are. You don't know what their ethics are. So it's probably good to chat in that. But one of the trends recently is to have manage your social media in-house or bring it back in-house, if that makes sense. So so when I say etiquette toolkit, Bianca, I mean write up a list of do's and don'ts that you expect in order to maintain or lift your brand's reputation. So that could be your in-house social media policy, or if you don't have one, again, it's just about the basics that you want and expect someone that manages your reputation. And when you really, really think about this, that you have given your reputation management over to someone else, you really do want to develop it. And I just want people to sit with that for a second, because that's huge, especially if you're like me, or I tend to be a little bit OCD. As I mentioned before, it's easier to keep your reputation high than to win it back if it's damaged or tarnished by an agency or a staff member. And I just want people to really feel that and resonate that you have handed over your brand's reputation.
You definitely need something in place, do's and don'ts. One of the ways that I think it could be done as well, and I've worked in this capacity with some businesses, is that you have a content calendar or like content created by an agency or by someone else, but the posting is in a way still done in-house. So it's like it goes through a filter, it goes through an approval process. It obviously doesn't work for like hot topics that you have to respond to straight away. But I think having a little bit of a gatekeeper, as to say, I think that might help in that way.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you said that about the content, because it didn't even occur to me that some businesses will just pay for content, and all the content that I create for my clients are shaped around public relations principles. There's a gentleman from the 1930s called Arthur Page, and he invented I think it's about 5 or 7 principles called the Arthur Page principles. And they're shaped on that. And I've just basically modified them for this day and age for our digital space. And I think with that in mind, if you get an overall perspective, an overall public relations perspective with your content that you are purchasing in or outsourcing, bringing back in, that's all got to help. And it's the holistic approach. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does. I love it. Because, I obviously just have my marketing hat on, and most people that will hire social media agencies or like someone who does social media, often they come from either a content conversational perspective or a marketing perspective, but often not a PR perspective. So I think putting it through that filter of what does this look like from a PR perspective, I think that is really another step to take, and I think that's really a good one to add to that lens as well, to filter it through.
Arthur Page, basically summarising his principles, he emphasised the importance of like honesty, integrity, customer focus, long-term thinking, employee engagement, and maintaining a positive attitude in the practice of public relations, or in my case, using all that, but the practice of public relations for the digital media, the social media.
I love that. I really love that. And I don't know, for me, that comes down partly to values as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's the kind of person I am. But I guess if you're building a brand that doesn't necessarily, that's not necessarily attached to a person, what are your brand values? And then putting that PR and those principles on top of that, I think that's really important, because a brand is not necessarily a person. The way I look at, I often do it with my own business in mind, but I'm a person. I can't afford to be the high school bully, you know. I'm not that kind of person anyway. But for a business, it's really important to have that written down, especially when you're going to outsource.
Exactly.
All of this. Okay. So we just looked at etiquette, but there's also ethics. And this is why I really want to talk to you as well, because when we first met, you spoke about this and I was really intrigued by it. So how are the two different, and how can a business apply good ethics?
Yes. So we just looked at how that nasty recent trend, following each other and unfolding them a few days later looked, and developing a toolkit. So yes, ethics is things from how to deal with complaints quickly. For example, a reminder to be professional, to have fun and be nice, as you mentioned before, to remind ourselves to just plain and simply be nice, having deja vu moment. Bianca, it's about being authentic. As I said before, one of the biggest trends post-pandemic in social media, it's about, other than bringing social media back in-house, it's about being authentic. So people want to see the people behind their favourite brand or their product as human. They want to see that they have real problems too. Like, we're all in the same boat. None of us got out unscathed through that whole, ordeal. This is, again, why PR is really good for your social media plans, because behind the scenes, for example, is just one way to bring that authenticity out. I mean, there's way more. There's a lot more. But in the PR world, as I said before, I follow those PR principles from the 1930s that are modified for the social media space. And it's interesting because I do start to see a lot more big brands now, especially the clothing brands, they are starting to follow those PR trends and be a lot more authentic. And instead of filming, for example, a new product range of clothing with, professional, stunning models on the runway, they'll put their iPhones up on a tripod and just try on the clothes and film. And it's really good to see. Also, it's great to reply your comments, your social media comments, things like that. Blog comments is a like for like. So what I mean by that is, for example, it goes back to the two-way communication and for the social media space. So if someone replies to one of your posts, for example, Bianca, with an emoji like a love heart, reply back with a love heart or something similar like a thank you.
Yeah.
Or if someone comments or something similar, so if someone comments, also reply with the comment. And if you can even continue that with that comment and continue on with the conversation, or just like a like for like, or even if a thank you, because again, as I said, social media is social, it's two-way communication. People want to see that there is a heartbeat, there is a human behind their brand. They don't want it to be a robot human or even AI, but that's probably a whole different podcast for you. And it's the two-way communication. It's a brand. It's your brand awareness, and it's just super, super important. But answering your question, social media ethics is about the online behaviour, where etiquette is, for example, your courtesy and respectful guidelines. So both are just as important for maintaining positive ethics online. But my biggest advice that I have around this is to be authentic and have fun, but still stay within your brand's limitations and your guidelines. Like, you don't want to be that authentic and that have fun that you've just gone off on a tangent and it's not even related and you're just silly, because that just brings your brand down.
Yes, there's authentic and there's authentic.
Yeah, exactly. But so still stay within your brand's limitations. But at the same time, it's important that that you can show a heartbeat. Yes, that's the right way. And look, if that's the right way of saying it,
I know I don't totally agree. And look, if part of your brand is that you're doing like silly stuff, I can think of a brand, but it's part of the brand. So like if it's part of the brand. But yes, just stay on brand, whatever half of the time that means. But I think the authentic, and being authentic doesn't always mean that you need to show the polished side of things, or like, it's all rainbows and sunshine. No, you can be more authentic and be more vulnerable. I think that it needs to be still related to what your business is and stands for. Like there's no point in I can whinge to my friends about the super hard day I've had with my kids at home when it's not a work day, but in my business I can in a way be vulnerable about that and share how tricky it sometimes is to manage a business and have little children. But nobody needs to know like the ins and outs of that super hard day. So I think you need to have a little bit of a filter on it. Because you don't want to. I don't want to be that. Like, oh, that's that business mum that just whinges.
It's funny you say that, because you do. There is some marketers out there. Oh, that's another story for another day. But it's interesting. Yes, I have seen that. Going back to the clothing brand, I can't even think of the name of the clothing brand. But, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, we all, it's our inherent nature that we love looking at nice things, don't we? We love looking at beautiful things, and especially when it comes to clothes, right? And when you've got a beautiful, gorgeous model wearing these clothes and, walking up and down the catwalk, you're like, you daydream and you do whatever goes on in our heads. That's psychology behind it. But as I said, I can't remember what name of that brand that's recently gone towards filming a reel, but real time, with just one of their staff members with those clothes on, hiding behind the curtains, and all of a sudden they've got the clothes on, turning it into a reel with some nice music, and it's a genuine person. It's not a professional paid model. It's just a staff member or someone from the community. It's what I call is an average body size person.
Yes.
And it just resonates with me more, because it's like, oh yeah, that's what that garment looks like on that size body. Oh yeah, that could work with me, or actually probably won't work with me now that I've seen that. But it's just my brain just 100 miles an hour when I look at that. I'm like, that just looks so much better for so many different reasons, public relations reasons,
it is more
and whatever.
It is more in a way genuine, and and I guess we can talk about user generated content in that way as well. But your the other topic that we talk about, the etiquette guidelines, would come in really handy for user generated content as well. Like, it's great to ask in a way like influencers or users to supply you with I don't know, video material, reels material, all of that. But obviously you still have like the opportunity to not publish it because you're not giving them access to your account. But it would be really handy to in a way give them some pointers as well. Like, I would get the type of content that you want them to create so that it does fall within your brand guidelines. And
exactly. Yeah. And I think we could probably talk about that for a really long time, because I have seen some really bad examples and some really good examples of hiring an influencer to help with your, raise your brand or your marketing product or whatever the case was. And I have seen some epic failures and I've cringed. And these influencers have hundreds and thousands of followers on Instagram. I'm like, oh my God, did you just do that?
Yep.
And it's like, oh, like if I was that company who paid them that money, I'd be asking them to remove that reel, because that reel is on that influencer's account.
Yeah.
And they've just tagged you. Yeah. I'm like, oh, that's just nasty. But I've seen some that work. But I see a lot more of it happening. But I think you're right. Like, have that foundation in place first, have your toolkit first, have a chat about what you expect. But at the same time, you still want their influence and their personality, because that's what makes them so successful.
Yes.
And that kind of thing. But it's about, meeting part way there.
I think so.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
I hadn't really thought about that beforehand, but yeah, like it can go really wrong, can't it?
Oh, I've got some great examples, but it's probably not suitable for this podcast. No. But it's probably someone that we're all probably following too. It's like, oh no,
let's not name and shame.
Exactly. And besides, I can't remember their first name to start anyway off the top of my head.
Social media is great, but yeah, there needs to be some boundaries around it in terms of what you do and don't do, but don't let it, like, if you're listening, don't let it stop you. You can pre-create content, and like, it's not, if you do an Instagram live, it goes live straight away. But if you pre-create your content, you can decide whether or not you're going to post it or not. And just be really clear on your brand, who you are, what you stand for, what you will and won't do or say. And it makes it a lot easier. Like, if you don't have any of that in place, then you can't really stick to any like guidelines or rules. But yeah, if you have them, then
exactly. Makes things a lot easier and simpler, and flows. Everything just flows.
It does. It really does. Like, and if it's the same as being a person. If you know who you are, it's much easier.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome. Okay, well, let's do my standard end of episode questions. I always love to ask this, and I know I'm like throwing you a complete curveball, but what are you curious about right now?
Now, it's interesting to say this. Now, this is not even PR related or marketing related, but you just basically said it about know who you are. And it's interesting because this is story time. I start each day doing a little bit of personal development. And the thing that my little gold nugget for today was, I don't have to know the exact 100% knowledge of the workings of something. Because I've got a science brain, I overanalyze things and I have to know how things work. And it's interesting because this morning's personal development was like, you don't need to know. You don't need to ask. You need to just get out of your own way, because it just works. And it's interesting because I had a phone call before you this morning, and it was a professional associate of mine who had a breakdown on some machinery. And I said, so what did you do? And he explained it to me. I'm like, okay, just pretend you get it, but you don't. And he goes, I hope when I get to, his destination, that nobody asks me how I've done it, because his response is, I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't know. It just works. Yeah. There's a few choice words in with that, but that's what it was. It was, I don't know. It just works. So that's what I'm curious right now is, how do you get out of your own way and just allow things to just work? So that's unusual answer to your question.
I love that. I kind of answer my children's questions like that sometimes. Like, how I don't know, it just does.
Yeah, that's hard for me. If you like OCD, that's hard for me to, I don't know, it just works.
Yeah.
Full stop. Silence. Like, oh, that's uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable. I want to know when when I'm really interested in it, I want to know, but some things I'm not interested enough to figure out how it works. Like, you know, my husband's an engineer and like he'll be explaining something sometimes. I'm like, this, and I'm like, I don't care. As long as it does what it needs to do, don't tell me. I don't really care. Because I don't need to know all the things.
Space. Yeah, you're filling up my important brain space right now. I should be focusing on something else. I don't need to know that.
I'm like, you know, if it's about a sales funnel and like all the components and like, I need to know how that works.
Yeah.
But I don't need to know how this machine thing or whatever he's come up with works. So yeah, if it's like not
my pay scale.
Yeah, but I can imagine that, science brain, you want to know how things work. But yeah, sometimes they just sometimes they just do. Yeah. And I love it.
It was lovely how he said that too. I thought, that's it. Where's my pen? Where's my notebook? I've got to write that down because that's the second time I've heard that today.
Yeah.
Get out of your own way because it just works.
It does. Yeah. I love it. Stick it on a sticky note and stick it on your like computer. It's like, stop
on the fridge.
Stop going down the rabbit hole. It doesn't matter how it works. It works.
Oh, you've nailed it. Stop going down the rabbit hole. That's exactly right.
We do that. I do that sometimes.
Oh, dear.
The other one is, if you had an extra $5,000 in your marketing budget, what would you spend it on?
Yeah. Okay, so the PR person is focused on PR, but it's not too good at marketing. Whereas you could say that on the other way, but I can't say that, of course, because I don't exactly know. If the marketing person is fantastic with marketing, but may not be aware of the public relations perspective.
Oh, yes, 100%.
So if I had an extra $5,000 on my marketing budget, that's what I'd do is I'd spend a minimum of 1/5 of that on giving that to you to get you to shape a marketing of a product, because I'm so focused on public relations and that, you know, the overall brand reputation and the overall public relations perspective that you forget that even though I am trained in marketing too, that sometimes you can lose sight on one or the other.
Yeah.
And although you have, you know, your marketing steps and your marketing campaign in place, but when things don't go as well as you'd hoped, you think, oh, hold on, maybe I need to step out of my little island mentality in my space and actually ask for help. And you know, go and seek a coach's advice or go and see your advice, for example, and go, hey, Bianca, you know that $5,000 marketing budget I've got?
Yeah.
I'm actually going to give you some. And we're going to sit down and we're going to come up with an actual marketing plan inside of a public relations plan and to focus on a particular product that I'm trying to market. So that's how we work so well together, like the marketing inside of a public relations plan.
Yes, the marketing and PR side of things. And you know what? Sometimes for a marketer, it's actually good to work with another marketer as well, because, you know, when you're just too close to your own thing, it kind of stands in my way sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I'm too close to it. Yeah. I need someone else's bird's eye view and thoughts on it.
It's tough for, you know, for people like me, OCD, but it's tough to actually put my hand out and, you know, ask for help, put my hand up, I should say, and ask for help. And it's interesting because you're right. It's you get sort of not narrow-minded, but you get your fixed mindset to a way.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I do personal development and professional development all the time, having that coach or another person's perspective, or as you said, another marketer's perspective, just a fresh set of eyes just makes a big difference. And yeah, so I think the rest of that money, the rest of that $5,000, so yeah, a new plan with you, and then the rest of it would go on Facebook marketing, Instagram marketing, social media marketing.
Yeah,
ads,
I like it.
I should say ads.
Oh, yeah. Well, I like it. You're not like, you don't have to say ads, but some people do like to spend their money on ads because it speeds things up a little bit. That's what I like about ads. It's like it's not a silver bullet. It only works if everything else works, but it does speed things up, which I like. I like speed.
Yeah. And it's different for everyone. Like, from a public relations campaign, some people need a billboard, or some people need flyers at the local tourist agency, or they need a radio campaign or a television or magazine or newspaper. Whereas, the target audience that I have and the things I'm trying to target in my online course, for example, is that my audience, so the people we want to target are, international people, or big city business owners, B2B. So it's about, or I think you call it funneling.
Yeah.
So it is social media ads that I would channel that into. So wouldn't need any marketing for anything else, just purely for that.
Yeah.
For ads.
Love it. If only we now had $5,000 extra in our marketing budget, that would be great.
Yeah. Well, we have state grants as well, so
we do
for your listeners, and for both our listeners.
Super lucky. Well, any Tassie listeners, there is a small business grants available. I'm pretty sure that other states have similar things, but for our Tassie listeners, that is. I
think the federal government website has the list of each state's grants that are available. But we are lucky in Tassie. Yeah.
Very, very
and
lucky.
Round 3, I think, opened yesterday at 2:00.
Yep.
At 2 p.m. or something. So very lucky.
Super awesome. So that's the end of this week's show. If you have questions about ethics and etiquette for social media, head to www.onlinepr.au. A really, really big thanks to you, Deborah, for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Bianca.
You're most welcome. And thanks to you for listening. If you like the show, don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating and review on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you heard the podcast. Your review will help others find the show and learn more about the amazing world of online marketing. Don't forget to check out the show notes for this episode at newschoolofmarketing.com, where you can learn more about Deborah, check out useful links, download free resources, and leave a comment about the show.